I got this last Reddit question I'm going to read. And then if you guys have any other questions, I'll answer them. And then I'll be out because I got other things to do today. So this guy's question was, so my girlfriend of 3 months is working for a marketing company, quotes, part-time, whose name I will omit. She talks about it all the time like it's a great big family, which immediately set off red flags for me, especially the way she describes and talks about it. Frankly, it sounds like a cult, but I digress. She brought me on a Zoom meeting as guest because a favorite rapper of mine was going to be giving a seminar. After a few minutes of hearing them talk, more red flags were set off for me. So I Googled the company. It turns out it's a legal pyramid scheme. They have been accused in the past, but it appears they have found loopholes in the law to stick around. And to my chagrin, it turns out the rapper also happens to be a big part of the pyramid scheme. He says, I brought it up to my girlfriend through text, and she laughed and said, LOL, and I knew you would say that. Before I could say anything else, she responded with, this is you supporting me. I'm not saying dive into this. And it's me, it's making me money. That's all I see. And made it sound like the conversation was over. This was a week ago, and I haven't touched it since. But I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm not sure how to go about addressing it with her. Her and I typically have open communication and are very opening about our concerns, ideas, conclusions, and feelings. But this came across differently to me. This seemed off limits for me, but I'm worried about her. As a pyramid scheme, it requires you to pay them money for your inventory of goods that you market, for membership to the company, and for you to even participate in their meetings, which are mandatory. I feel like she's being had, and she seems brainwashed by them. What do I do? How do I discuss this topic? I care deeply for her, and this is the first instance since we started dating that has made me feel uncomfortable enough not to talk to her about how I feel. But on top of being bad grammar. But on top of being had, I feel like she is also ripping people off and doesn't even understand that. The products she sells are from supplements and creams to ridiculous Temu style clothing and electronics that won't last. So I'll reiterate, what do I do and how do I address this? So here's the interesting thing, right? We get into relationships with the understanding that part of that is being able to help the person we're with and sometimes addressing blind spots that they have that they may not see. And so in this guy's case, he's very well-meaning. He's coming to her, hey, babe, I've looked at this company. I've looked at their history. I've looked at some news stories, and it looks like it's a scam. It looks like they're taking your money, and they're not actually going to do anything beneficial to you in the long run. Like, this is a bad idea, all right? So he's told her that, and she has come back and said, hey, you know what? Like, I knew you were going to say that, but really, I just want to be supported, and this is something I'm really into, and I'm seeing a lot of money, yada, yada, yada. So at this point, the guy's like, what can I do further? And my response is nothing. You cannot do anything. Now, that may seem cold-hearted. That may seem like, but Harry, if you really care about her, how could you see this net? Look, here's the thing. We're all adults, right? Adults are going to do what they want to do. So as a guy, you research the company, you say, this isn't good. She researched it and said, this is good. We have a differing of opinion. Your viewpoint of it could very well be right, but it could also be wrong. You have to understand that as an adult, she has made the adult decision to say, I think that this thing has merit and I want to do it. And sometimes the hardest thing as the person that you're with, that you care about, the hardest thing could be seeing them do something that you know is harmful and having to let them experience the harm. It's kind of like, when babies first start touching hot things, if the parent's just like, no, don't touch, it's hot, it'll burn you. The kid has no idea of what that even is. You have to let the kid actually touch the hot stove to recognize, oh, crap. See, not such hotness anymore, right? And so there are going to be times in your relationship, guys, where your woman's going to come to you and say she's doing a thing or wants to talk about a thing or whatever, and you're going to be like, this is a bad idea. I don't think you should get into it. My mom told me a story when my dad was still alive and they were about to move to California. He really wanted a Volvo. In fact, it was the Volvo that when he died, it was still here. We kept it for a few more years after he died. It was like a red maroon Volvo with square, boxy, whatever like that. He always wanted a Volvo, right? And so, but they also wanted to move to California, and they wanted to eventually get a house in California. And so when my mom, who was very good at financial stuff, right, she looked at how much the payments were going to cost for the car and how much it cost overall, and she said to my dad, like this probably isn't like the best purchase, because if you get this car, we're going to have a lot more trouble trying to get a house in California when we're out there. So I'm telling you now, this is a bad buy. My dad's response was like, I hear what you're saying. I've always wanted this car. I'm getting the car. So at that point, she was like, all right, cool, get the car. So he got the car, drove across the country, came to California. We lived in Northern California at that point in time. And yeah, they went to go get a house. And the people at the house place were like, well, because of your car, you don't qualify for this house now. And at that point, my mom, to be fair, she was never a person that was like the I told you so person. She was just like, she was very loving to say, well, babe, hey, we'll figure out, we'll live wherever. In the meantime, we'll get an apartment, whatever. Like, I just want to be with you and this and that, right? Very, very good response. But that's the point, is that you're going to be with somebody and they're going to do something that you don't think is a good idea. And sometimes it's going to bite them in the butt. And you have to let them take those lumps. But also, when that happens, you can't be the guy that then comes back and says, see, I told you so, you should listen to me the whole time, blah, blah, because nobody wants to hear that in a relationship. And there's going to be times where you're going to do the same thing, where you're going to make a decision about something that the person you're with is going to be like, that's not a good idea because of X, Y, and Z reason. You're going to be like, but I want to do the thing I want to do, and it's going to bite you in the butt. And you don't want her coming to you, you should have listened to me, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's not a fair thing for anybody to do. So you can do the best loving thing you can, which is to let her know what your grievances are and say, hey, but at the end of the day, it's your decision to make. I'm going to love you regardless of what you decide to do. And I hope that it works out. And then if it doesn't work out, then don't, I told you so, just be like, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, babe. Like, what can we do now? Like, what's the next move? But yeah, that's all you can do. And then, yeah, you know, people have the right to have differing opinions about different things. It does not give you the right to try to hold that over the other person or to try to force your will upon them to think the way you want them to think and see the things that you see right now. Like, again, sometimes people got to experience some stuff. I've been through it. I've been through things where I had to experience it. Like, I've had several times as an adult where I had to call my mom and be like, hey, mom, remember that thing you told me when I was like 22 years old that I shouldn't do this and that? You were totally right. I give those phone calls. So I'm like, oh, she has some wisdom about her. But she doesn't say to me then, oh, see, son, you should blah, blah. Like, no, nobody wants that. So don't do that to the person you're with. That's what I'm saying, you know?
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class